Hi guys, thank you for joining me for another one of my vlog posts. Today we're going to talk about Azure AD Cloud Sync. So what is Cloud Sync? Cloud Sync falls under the Microsoft Entra umbrella, and it's a lightweight agent where the configuration is stored in the Microsoft online services, and it provides a better multi-agent high availability support than its previous predecessor, Azure AD Connect. So before we move further ahead, let's talk a little bit more about the differences between Cloud Sync and Azure AD Connect. Cloud Sync does not support pass-through authentication, so in scenarios where you may need to use things like login hours or local policy for account restrictions, then this would not be the chosen technology. You would be best off going back and looking at the Azure AD Connect documentation and looking at your best scenario from there. A couple of other things it doesn't do is it doesn't do group device or exchange hybrid write-back. Now there is a list of other differences that is available on the Microsoft website, and I will be posting a link in the description for you to go have a look at these. I would thoroughly recommend reviewing these before implementing this solution. So let's take a look at some of the prereqs. One of the first prereqs is you must have a domain or enterprise admin account available for your local Active Directory for the group managed service account creation, unless you already have one created. Your Active Directory schema must be 2012 or above. Agents must be installed on server 2016 or above. Now it is supported to install these on domain controllers. You must have .NET 7.1 or above installed, and TLS 1.2 must be enabled. There is a couple of other prerequisites that are available via the link that I will be putting in the description, and these relate to proxy and firewall exclusions that may be required in very tightly controlled environments. So let's look at installing the Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync agent. So the first thing you need to do is head over to portal.azure.com, open up Azure Active Directory. On the left hand side, click on the Azure AD Connect, and then click Manage Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync, and click on Download Agent. Once you click Accept Terms and Download, it will download the agent for you. Now, as I'm going to be doing this on a different machine, I pre-downloaded this earlier. So if I head over to my domain controller, open up the installation path where I save the installer, and double click it to get us going. So select I agree once you agree to the license terms and conditions, and then click install. So once the installation is complete, the provisioning agent configuration wizard will appear. If you click next to connect to Azure AD, then click authenticate. If you sign into your account, so once authenticated to Azure AD, this is where you will need either your custom group managed service account or to provide your domain or enterprise administrator credentials to create one. So I will just enter my credentials. Once you've entered your credentials, click Next. Select your domain, Click next and click confirm. You'll see the process now going through creating the group managed service account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video here and then we will come back and look at how you can see if the agent's created successfully. Okay, so after a couple of minutes you can see on the screen your agent installation configuration is complete. So if we click exit on here and close on this wizard, if we then head back to the Azure portal and click review all agents, you will see we have now got a active connection from my DC. So one more thing to do is let's enable password writeback in Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync. The writeback is used for self-service password reset, or also known as SSPR, which is a really useful tool and can save you a lot of calls on your support desks. So if we head back over to the server where we installed the provisioning agent, open up an admin PowerShell prompt. If we then do import -module, the path where the DLL is located, and then if we do Microsoft cloud, and we are looking for the PowerShell DLL, and if we import that module, and then if we run set -AADC sync writeback configuration to enabled true, and then credential of now this account you use here has to be your tenant global admin. Once you've entered the details, click OK. And then password writeback will be enabled for your tenant. One other thing to do when using CloudSync is configure single sign-on. Now there is a guide here on how to configure single sign-on. You do need to download the Azure AD Connect application and extract it. However, for this purpose I've created a script to do so, which I will share a link to in the description. I'll also share a link to this article if you would prefer to go through it manually. But let's head over to our domain controller and have a look at the script. So looking at the script, the first thing it does is it obtains your domain admin credentials and your global admin credentials. Now this may be the same account, but it also may differ, which is the reason it grabs them both separately. Then there's the link to the Azure AD Connect MSI, followed by the MSI path, the extract location, and any required modules. For this purpose, the Azure AD module is required, and the for each loop here. If it doesn't exist on your machine, it will go ahead and install it. And then it heads over to check if the path for the MSI exists. If it does not, it will create it, and then it's followed on by the commands to download and then extract and configure single sign-on. So the next thing to do is open up an admin PowerShell prompt and then change directory to where your script resides, and then invoke your script. The first thing that will happen is you'll be prompted for your domain admin credentials. Now this must be prefixed with your net BIOS name. And you'll be prompted for your global admin credentials. what will happen then is it will download the MSI, as you can see on screen. It will wait for this to finish extracting. It will then connect to your tenant and configure SSO. Now, if we head into Active Directory and then into the Computers OU, you will see it has created your Azure AD SSO accounts computer object, as it states within the output on the screen, creating the computer account in Computers and then your domain. Okay, so now we've installed the provisioning agent, we actually need to create some configuration for the agents to do your synchronization. So at this point, nothing is synchronized to your Azure tenant from your directory. So if you head back over to the Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync page and hit New Configuration, select the domain you wish to use. We want to enable the password hash sync and click Create. Give it a moment to do its business. So once it's finished, you will be presented with the configuration page like this. As you can see, when it is the configuration first appears, all users are in scope of the Cloud Sync. Now, for my requirements, and maybe for many of your others, you can either scope a group to sync, or organizational units, or multiple groups, or multiple organizational units. Now, what we'll do is we'll start just by syncing a single organizational unit, because I want to show you how we go about adding organizational units in after. Okay, so in here, if I enter the distinguished name of where my users sit within my directory and click Add and click Done. So I want to sync the password hashes. If you want to, you can look at the mappings and map different attributes. Just for validation purposes, we want to provision a user to our tenant from Active Directory. So what we can do is we can enter the distinguished name of one of the users. And click Provision. So this will show you that it successfully imported the user. It gives you some information about the user within them details. So if you click Finish, that verifies that there is connection back to your domain. As we continue down the settings, so notification email, I would always have this set. I would generally set this to a distribution group of your administrators, if that's something you've already got in place. It's going to notify you if the synchronization is not healthy. And then your prevent accidental deletion, I would always leave this checked, and I would look at changing the threshold. For my lab, I'm going to leave it at 25, and then you can choose to leave this disabled, so you've created a configuration but not enabled it, or you can choose to enable this and have your synchronizations going. Okay, so if I click Save and click Yes and wait for the configuration to save. Perfect. So that is the configuration saved. It's now going to go away, do its things in the background, and do the synchronization of your objects. You can view the logs for your provisioning. If you go back to the Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync pane and click Logs, you can see here that it is updating details, it is deleting them, it's creating them, etc. So we've added obviously our standard users in there. If you wanted to go back and add in something else into the scope, another OU with users in that you didn't quite perceive needed access at this stage, or you just want to add in another, you've created another OU for groups that are in and it's not in scope, you can head over to your configuration, click on edit the scope and add in your scope. So let me just cut this down. So if I go, I want to add in my managed groups. Okay, click add, click done, and click save. And that will let him start to configure my groups. Now, there may be occasions where you do see accounts that are not synchronizing to Azure, and what you can do is you can come back into this same pane and validate user attributes. So for example, if you click on provision a user here, and in here if I enter cn equal outer scope and then change this to my administrative users, and click provision, you'll see here that it will determine that the user is out of scope, and it will give you reasons that it has not synchronized that object. Okay, so for example, it skipped it because it's out of scope. This is a really useful way of checking if there has been tickets raised that asking why the account is not available in Azure. Now we have our identities synced into Azure, let's head over and check them out. And the first thing you'll notice is their user principal name from your on-premise synchronized account is that their UPN suffix is the on Microsoft domain that you get with your tenant. Now, if you're migrating from Azure AD Connect application to CloudSync, you will already have your UPN suffixes sorted. However, for the sake of completeness, let's have a look how we can change this for people newly creating or setting up their Azure tenants. So let's head over to our domain controller and have a look at our user accounts and look at the accounts, and you'll see here that we only have the default UPN of your domain. Okay, so because this domain is not registered with my tenant, what we're going to have to do is add a new UPN suffix and change our user. So if we open up our domains and trusts, right click on the top and click properties, and you'll see here you can add an alternative UPN suffix. So if I add in my lab.euc365.com and hit add, if I hit OK to that, I head back over to Active Directory, open up my user account again, and you'll see now I can change the UPN suffix. So if I change this to my lab.euc365.com, click apply, when Azure AD Connect CloudSync does a synchronization, it will update my Azure AD record. So double check, you can see it's not changed as of yet. We can go ahead and force our synchronization to happen. So if I open up Active Directory, Azure AD Connect, manage CloudSync, open up my configuration, I hit restart sync. Okay, We can also see this happen in the logs, in the provisioning logs. So just give it a moment because no results have been found as of yet. So after a couple of minutes, you can see that there has been an update to my user here. So if I click on here and look at the modified properties, you will see that the on-premise user principal name has changed. Okay, and also the user principal name at the bottom. So then if I head back now to directory users, expand my user principal name column, you can see that my user has successfully changed their UPN. So if I open up another tab and go to portal.azure.com and let's sign in with my user. And you can see this is the first time I'm signing in with this account after the synchronization, so it's asking me for more information that's required. This is because I've got MFA configured for my tenant, so you may not see this process. So what I'll do is I'll just pause here a second, go through this process, and then we will come back when it's complete. Okay, so I've now configured my user. I'm not going to stay signed in at this time just because this is a guest browsing session. And you can see I'm now logged in and I have access using my on-premise synced account. So you can see the user principal name here that matches this one here, which is on-premise synced. So what about if you had a large environment where you need to change multiple UPN suffixes? Now you can task somebody with going in and opening a user account, changing the suffix, but as you can imagine, it's quite a long and laborious task. Now, if you've got a machine that you have got the Active Directory RSAT tools available on, you can do this via PowerShell. So there is various scripts and solutions online to do so. I just pulled one together myself very quickly. I will post a link to it in the description from my GitHub repo. But if we just have a look at it, so there's a couple of parameters that are mandatory from the command line. So you've got your OU, which your users reside in. You've got your new UPN suffix, so this will be the domain that is that was added in your domains and trusts, and then your current UPN suffix. Now the current UPN suffix, if it is all capitals, it will need to be all capitals when you specify it or when it does the replace. So if we go ahead and run this, so if I do // my update UPN suffix with my OU of my standard users, my current UPN suffix, which is EUC365.lab, and my new UPN suffix, which is going to be lab.euc365.com, and hit return. And if we head back over to Active Directory, open up Max Badger and click on account, you will see it has updated his UPN suffix. Now, I will warn you here that I would recommend reviewing your accounts that are in scope and potentially looking at expanding on this to add in additional logic for your environment. But as a basic and for your lab environments, this should be fine. I have seen instances where this script has been run and it's updated the Azure AD Connect account UPN suffix, and if that happens, you will need to go back and change it for your Azure AD to Connect to start working correctly again. I'd just like to say a big thank you for sticking around and watching my video. Please like and subscribe for more content to come from EUC365.